Okay, I thought I would do a series of videos regarding RAG, which is Retrieval Augmented Generation. And I've actually built a very simple demo to try and show what you can do with some of the technologies underlying RAG. So really, what is RAG, right? Well, if you look at large language models, they've basically got some shortcomings. You know, they're amazing tools, but some of the shortcomings are, for example, hallucinations has been well talked about. Attribution, i.e., where did you get the answer from? Staleness, which is the age of the data, and then revisions, and then you get customization. So, you know, different use cases, different data. And so, you know, one of the solutions that people are coming up with to address these shortcomings is retrieval augmentation. So, simply put, RAG is the technique to put additional context into these large language models to get better responses. So, instead of just asking a query, you submit the query and some additional data to a large language model, and you'll get a better answer. And so that's the whole idea behind this. So really, you know, what's the problem that we see? Well, for example, one of the issues I see is a lot of companies have very large documents, especially PDFs. Another example, a lot of local governments have very large PDFs. The state of New Jersey publishes a lot of PDFs that are 300-400 pages long. And then the issue is it's very hard to find information in these PDFs because you then have to search them. You're not quite sure which section there is. You don't know how the right keywords. Sometimes the keyword isn't there, or there's hundreds of these keywords and you just lose track of where you are and what the answer is. As well as, you know, some companies produce smaller versions. So you might have a PDF that's produced once a year or every other year, 400 pages, and then updates to these policies are produced, you know, once a quarter. So you might have a 1.1, 1.2. And so not only do you need to have, you know, the main PDF, but also the updates that might contradict or clarify some of the information in the original 300-400 page PDF. So that makes life very hard. So the idea I had is, can you actually put like a chat interface on top of these PDFs and be able to ask questions and get the right answers, or hopefully fine tune where you need to look. And there is some ideas with this within the RAG area, and there's quite a bit of research. So this is an example of a RAG process. So you get a document, you actually encode it, which basically means breaking up into chunks. You put these chunks into a database, and then when you ask a question, you basically you actually start to look through the database for similar chunks of text to the question that you're asking, and then you actually get that information, that slice of text, as well as the question, and you ask that to the large language model, and you get hopefully a more fine-tuned answer back out. And so that's great. So how would you actually do this in practice? So here is like a very high-level example of what I'll be building over a period of time. So the first step is you get these initial loading steps where you're loading up. In this case, I'm using PDFs. I'm going to parse and chunk the PDFs. And there's quite a bit of work that's being done around this. And then you basically load, you know, these chunks into a vector database. So if you remember large language models, everything you want to try and break down into a series of vectors. And so when a user asks a question, what you will try and then do is take that question, try and classify what type of question that is, and then search your basically vector database for a chunk of text that's similar. And then you can go through a series of optimizations to try and improve, do I have the right set of text, to then go pass to this large language model. So, you know, pass the original question and some of the sources that I found, some of these chunks of text, and then to go and display that to a user. So that's what I'm going to try and do. So I built a version 1, and I would call it and a proof of concept. It's not even a minimum viable product. And I've used a bunch of products to help me along the way. So what I've done is I've loaded up a single PDF, makes my life easier, into a tool called Llama Parse. And then I'm using a set of libraries from Hugging Face to load it into, in this case, I'm using MySQL as a vector database. So again, it's just making my life as easy as possible. So when a user asks a question, really what I'm doing is retrieving, from this vector database, a chunk of text most associated with the question. And then what I'm doing is I'm going to end up passing it into a large language model. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually passing it to a system called Grok. And it basically has an interface, an API interface on top of a variety of large language models. Grok is a startup company that's actually making their own chips. Very interesting work that they're doing there. And then I'm displaying the response. So I can actually go into a demo here and actually show what I've been able to do. And I'll actually ask some questions of this. I'll jump to the demo. So this is an example of the UI build. Super simple, easy for me to code up. I'm certainly not a UI engineer. I'm sure there's some people cringing when they see this, right? So it's pretty simple. So let me ask it a question. So here's the question. Can a customer be terminated? And basically it's saying yes. And on the right-hand side of the PDF, it's jumped to the section where it thinks it got the answer from. So this is interesting. It gives me a chat answer, a chat response, and also highlights the text. And you can look up further up in the section. You can see I didn't quite get all of the areas highlighted, but it goes down into, this section, rights, liabilities, obligation of a terminated customer. So that's pretty interesting. So here I have ChatGPT. So let me just ask ChatGPT, can a customer be terminated? What I've done here is I've actually loaded up the files. So with ChatGPT, you can actually load up files, and I loaded up the files. So here we go. It's saying yes. It gives probably a more eloquent answer, but it doesn't tell you where it got all of the details. It's just saying, hey, yeah. So it's interesting. So it's not too bad. I think the ChatGPT probably gives more information, but if I go back to the UI I built, it basically shows the PDF, which is interesting. So what does confidential information mean? So again, it gives me a nice answer. And then over here, actually highlights the right section and the text where it thinks it's best focus for me. So you can see it's pretty good. So let me go over here to ChatGPT and see, what does confidential information mean? So, okay, in context of Mascara rules, so it actually says, hey, it's talking about the Mascara rules PDF. And so you can see it doesn't do too bad of an answer. So you can start to see, right? The RAG helps fine tune, the answer that we get, and it's not too bad, right? So that was the idea of this demo, was to see, how well I can actually, fine tune the answers I get back from an LLM. So the other thing that you see, there's actually quite a bit of research on this. And there's a research paper that came out by Wang et al. And talking through all of the different technologies and their implementation. So if you look into this vector database, here's the different vector databases that they reviewed, and which one that they thought was the best for that type of job. And that's what I'll be doing in some of these further videos, is looking through some of this as I try and go through the fine-tuning of the this retrieval augmented generation technologies to see if we can get better answers by asking, the very large PDF. So stay tuned for more versions, and hopefully this was informative for everyone. Okay, thanks. Bye.